the experience of another person, your experience of another, as I said, it's true, it's correct to say, oh yes, that's the experience of your 5 aggregates. But if that experience of another is not seen as an image correctly, independent of space and time, if that phenomenon is not seen peripherally, it will imply that there is also the internal experience of others at their counterpart that you are not privy to. And that's already outside of your aggregate assumption. And that's why self exists internally or externally, for that matter. So the sense of self, or the conceit, for an Arya Savaka who is free from Atavada, but he still is not free from his self-centeredness to various degrees, that also implies a certain perception of private self-centeredness of others. Private conceit that he's not, as I said, that he cannot access, but it's there. But then, if he starts seeing that as an image, that's how the emphasis gets undone. The image remains the same, the phenomenon remains the same, the designation remains the same, but what it implies changes. And that's important, well, as a practice, obviously, because if you do it like that, then, see, if somebody who is still very much assumes the internal of their experience here and now, is mine, and doesn't matter whether they take scientific view or mystical view or whatever, if they're seeing, if their own Atavada is still there, when you tell them that experience of another is just an image, they're going to assume, aha, so others are just in me. Here. Right here. In this space and time of me. And that's like solipsism. But the Dhamma, if done rightly, others are not in you more than you are in them, from your point of view. So in other words, when you cease to be self for yourself here, to that extent, other selves out there will also cease to be selves. So it's not just that others are not in you, even you is not in you. But obviously somebody who is still on the level of me here, sense of self, Atavada, anything, any information like this, they will not see the nuance difference, and they will it just sounds like solipsism. It just sounds like everybody is in me. My perception is what everybody is. There is no real everybody. This is only what I perceive. It's like, but that's undermined by the sense of self assuming internally. And if you were to approve that, they will cease to be in you, so to speak. They will be neither here nor there nor between the two, as actually Bhakya Sutta says.
They won't be in them.
Yeah, and that's why if like in case of an Arahant, as I said, that's where his confidence comes from. That's why he doesn't tremble amidst any of assembly. Not because he's not percipient that there are many people around him, but it's because 1 or 1,000 people, there are no assumed private internal dimension that has a view of me that I cannot access. That which undermines my sense of me. Gone. He sees that as a peripheral image, neither here nor there. If he thinks about his own self-centeredness in regard to others, he thinks about that as a peripheral image, neither here nor there, as a phenomenon independent of space or time. So there can be no more fear towards others, no more anger towards others, no more lusting after others. And as I said when we started talking, you could see that's exactly, you could even imagine that. You could get a taste of that. How relieved. Like, imagine you live in a crowded home where everything is like seen. Everything you do, everything you say is constantly basically paired with eyes of others and company and thoughts and so on. And all of that carries that external point of view to me that I don't have control of, and that's why I feel undermined and shy or irritated or just tired or whatever. And imagine now, whoosh, they all disappear and you just feel alone, and you're going to feel relief because it's just you with yourself to the extent that you are. No more, no less. And there's just sit and put your feet up and you just feel nice because there is nobody there, just having their input, having their presence of that external kind that fundamentally it's unpleasant. And that's what like Sartre was describing, the being for others, and it's always out of my hand. That's why my being, how do you put it, my being kind of gets taken from me in a sense into that dimension, and you feel that but you're not saying it. It was a nice poetic almost description of the fact, but he couldn't see the way out. But the way out is that you assume is there outside internal dimension is another phenomenon.
Here and there.
Another phenomenon, another image, another Dhamma independent of space and time. That which you assume as the internal behind all these senses in me, same. So, contemplate things internally, contemplate things externally. There will be no room for self to hide. Because self requires that internal dimension, assumed implication. Whether that dimension is at the counterpart of me or others, it doesn't matter. It's external to the experience as a whole. So, people, animals, Brahmas, Devas, Maras, for an Arhant, no internal dimension assumed that is outside of him, given footing to exist through his misconception of his images. In regard to those things, it's all seen for what it is, and that's why he's unshakable.
So not misconceiving images.
Yep.
Imaging. It just that's.
Yeah, but images, as I said, images is what you find at the back of your mind in regard to things, not what you kind of think, oh, this is an image of it.
Yeah. Yeah, this discerning images.
Mm-hmm.
As images.
Well, discerning images, and like as we spoke in the other recent talk, the group talk we had here, it's like, so do you think images are in your head? And usually that's the first thing people will be thinking, which means that's the first thing you have to start undoing. So when images cease to be in your head, images of others that imply their personal, their being independent of you, will cease to be placed in them. It will be seen as a phenomenon. It's neither here nor there.
Yeah, neither here nor there is quite good. Because non-locality.
Yeah, so you could see like the practicality of Bahya Sutta. It was not just like a philosophical statement or a logical, hey, let me provide you a system of seen and heard and how it connects all the dots. No. You see it like that rightly, you will be neither here nor there nor between the two. Nor anybody will be anything neither there nor here nor between the two. And he was an Arhant. Simply on account of that. Understanding that.
But anyway, it sounds, like this room is empty of self. This place is empty of self, but anything pertaining to self. And that sounds like he enters into that emptiness. Or there's nothing belonging to me anywhere.
Anywhere in the world, yeah, exactly.
It's basically the same kind of.
It's exactly, piece. It paints the same. It sets up the same.
Images.
Images, contemplation sets up the same sort of recognition. That then you need to, as I said, sustain and maintain, in a sense of until it permeates all the subtle aspects. All the subtler implications, subtler images, subtler. Yeah.
Where are others for you now? Where's your mother? Where's your father?
Yeah. You look at the dog now, Jab. Where is he now? Is he in that lump of flesh, coated with a fur blanket? Is he inside there? Why would you assume that? Also, is he in me then? Or something? You realize all these thoughts means you still give priority to he is somewhere. And you don't see that as an image. And the point is, you can't see it as an image once or twice for that assumption to drain away. You need to keep seeing it. You need to keep catching yourself each time, which means you need to have faith in the instruction. Because if you don't have faith in the instruction, I tell you, you look at it once and you don't see it as an image. I see it as has to be somewhere. I mean, it's a fact. How can he be here if he's not somewhere? What am I perceiving if he's not somewhere? And then you're going to dismiss it. But if you repeat it sufficient amount of times, seeing it as an image, you recognize, oh crap, it is an image. Independent of space and time, it's not in me, it's not in him. It's there. Likewise, anything that has a nature to appear.
Self.
Anything. And that's when it ceases to be here and yonder and between the two.
Or like, so sensuality, sensual pleasure is in the object of the senses.
Yeah.
That's where it is.
Yeah.
And if I just go towards it, then I get it from there into here. From out there into here.
Yeah, of course. It requires that division. Yeah.
But the whole idea of like whatever it is.
Well, the whole idea, like, see, you're not seeing that when you're thinking about the sensual object, that is already the extent of the sensual object.
Yeah, and the pleasure.
So then why would you have subsequent actions towards it?
It's the gratification.
Because you realize, well, but it's the extent of it that it can be present, it's already present. That is already its gratification. So following things further with the body and so on, it's like, well, that's completely redundant. That makes no sense. That requires you to not see it as an image to the extent that it has arisen, and then your actions seem to be gaining and fulfilling and consuming the lack, what was missing. But if you see what's missing as an image, you realize, well, delighting in what's missing is an image. It's really such. Missing is complete, so to speak, as an image, independent of space and time, and then it stops to imply the missing, the lack, which means your delight fades away. So it's not incidental that anagami is free from sensuality and ill will, because both require that extent of the implication of another, of that dimension that you're getting to through pursuing pleasure or expressing anger. But when that scene real as such, to the extent that it has arisen, it has no lack in itself, and that seen sufficiently and repeatedly, as I said, any actions, any assumptions that exist on account of that assumed lack will disappear. So you will not be able to get angry. You will not be able to get lustful and drawn towards the attractive form. It requires personification, basically. Those actions require you to personify the form that you perceive, which you are. You start with personification. You don't start clean and then make a mistake. And when the form is depersonified, here and yonder, immediately, reflexively, doesn't matter. When when image of form is seen as an image, understood to its extent, there can be no disturbances arising in you. Because any disturbance that comes requires self, internally or externally or both. As I said, the fear, lust, desire, loneliness, depression, any of these feelings and sort of complex dukkhas and so on, it's all in relation to others or seeing yourself as a self.
Internal and external spaces, private spaces.
Exactly, private spaces, And that's why Arahant, he said for him, his actions, or his entire being is as in private, so in public, as in public, so in private. Absolutely no discrepancy.
There's no privacy.
There's no privacy,
space.
but there is no private space. But see, that also means there is no public space either. Because public space is basically private space of others that you are not privy to. That's why people fear the public speaking, exposure, public, everybody looking at me. You basically brings down, it reveals the gratuitously assumed dimension of outside of yourself that shows you your non-control, but you're assuming it through your control and you don't see that. And that's the discrepancy felt when others are looking at you and you feel like put on spot. You're not seeing the outside you're experiencing as an image independent of space and time, independent of inside and outside, of here and yonder. And for that you are responsible. So see, you are responsible for giving the gratuitous power to that phenomenon of outside point of view. You're giving power to it, but that phenomenon, it shows you that you have no power, because it can go either way, and you know that. So that's why, it feels like it's out of your hands, but it's your doing. So you feel embarrassed, even if you didn't do anything wrong, just by everybody watching you. Your hands start to tremble, you can't speak, all this, you're exposed. It reveals the most deepest personal assumption in regard to you, yourself, that you have regarding yourself. An outside point of view that in regard to yourself, you feel protected and hidden on the inside of me. But this just shows you that the same thing is out there in regard to others. And then it reveals the inside of you that you thought was safe because it wasn't seen. Because you are not seeing it. If you were to start seeing it, it would be vomited out. It would be seen as an external phenomenon. So when you think about, for example, your mother, she's absent from here, she's out there, she's in South Africa. So you recognize the extent of that thought, you can see, oh, that's a thought. But that thought still carries, still implies that she is, the being of her is out there, in South Africa. And how can you know that? How can that implication be anything other than just another peripheral image in regard to your thoughts of your mother? Because she might not be there. Her form might have been disintegrated with a nuclear blast, and you're about to find out. So she factually might not be there, the way you're thinking she is there. So she's probably there. But probability is all I can have. But probabilities are real as such. But whether your probability now, that probability, implies the external space, the world where your mother lives. But then again, that implication will be there, but you look at it peripherally and see, but that implication, when I'm thinking about my mother, is just another image. That's sure, less direct, less defined, closer to my point of view, but again, it's manifested. And whatever's manifested, it's neither here nor yonder. It's arisen to the extent it has arisen independent of space and time. Space and time are second to it. And as such, it's impermanent. See, by undermining the external assumption of the world, the matter that your mother lives in, you're undermining your own as well. And that's why people would be afraid to do it. Because you would feel it here and now as well. So colloquially described, see that the peripheral thoughts, images of the possibilities of this and that, doesn't matter, that appear real as such, that domain that's independent of space and time, neither here nor there, not in your head, not in others, it just is, to the extent that it is, that it's more real than your concrete sense of being here, this body, perceptions that come on account of it, all that. And by more real, I mean more fundamental. It's first. Your concreteness here, that you palpability of it, all that is second to it. So now it's like, okay, so this concreteness, take it up. Feel that physicality, as I was saying, and see the phenomenality of it. See the peripheral image of it while you are feeling it here and now. And then recognize it's the peripheral image of it comes first, while the physicality is perceived here.
So I'm experiencing something here and now, doing this and that, drinking, someone speaking. All that is secondary to the image of it.
Of the experience as a whole in regard to all of those specifics. But see, the image of the whole, the image as of the experience as a whole depends on the specifics. So it's not just, just have these magical images and then everything else follows out of them. No. You have two domains. Domains of the specifics and domains of the images of the experience as a whole. The actual, the peripheral. Simultaneously existing to the extent they are. It's like looking at the same thing from 2 points of view. Like, imagine, I don't know, again, it's a poor example because it's even three-dimensional cannot convey the example because it depends on space. But I think I might have said this before. Like, I don't know, imagine your screen, your laptop screen, divided in half. And one is showing a view of the Earth, planet Earth, from the universe, from the space. And the other one is showing some view of a camera on the street. And both are happening in real time. Factually, both are happening in real time. The events on the street are happening within that earth that's watched from the higher point of view. Simultaneous. One doesn't stop in order for other to arise. And by the way, that is actually the contemplation of the great elements. How you undo your own little measly sense of personified form here. By recognizing, I established my mind upon the perception of earth, so that anything inferior to it cannot bother me. See, if your concerns now shift onto the image on the screen that's the basically planet Earth viewed from the space, if you're concerned about what's going to happen there, is there an asteroid coming and stuff, everything that's happening live in real time, simultaneous on the street, it's completely irrelevant. There was an argument over a pot of flowers between the neighbors or something. They was like raging mad, about to kill each other. But now suddenly your concern is on the level of the element of planet Earth. Simultaneous, still, the argument didn't stop. It just becomes irrelevant because you see there's something bigger. Possibilities of something bigger could occur. And will occur. And that's the recognition. It will break down. So everything here, simultaneous to that. Not in hindsight when I think about and convince myself that everything here is irrelevant because the earth is greatest and it will come to pass and then... No. Simultaneous, live feed of 2 points of view. So there's a live feed going on now in regard to your experience. And always has been. There were always 2 points of view. Cannot be different. It's just that higher one, put it that way, it's usually relegated and overburdened by the concerns of the inferior one, and sort of put second to that one. So it takes withdrawal from the concerns of the inferior one, through sense restraint, guarding of the sense doors, all of that, to then shift the weight back. And then obviously until you eventually see it. And recognize that, like as I said, there's a live feed right now. As we speak, we are factually on the planet Earth. As I'm saying, we are on the planet Earth. There is a planet Earth that we inhabit, factually. So the image of the planet Earth that you have as an abstract thing, somewhere up there, take it out of space and time. Take it out of up there and see it here, factually living, like the 2 cameras providing simultaneous light feed. One from the Earth, one from what's on Earth, more specific. But it needs to be simultaneous. Not like you go and then you start reflecting and thinking about the Earth and then you start applying that here secondarily. I mean, you're probably going to be doing that to some extent. But you have to recognize that this can only be seen rightly if it's simultaneously. Both points of view are simultaneously endured. Like you can't attend to them to the same extent at the same time. Mm-hmm. One will be actual, another will be peripheral. But it's whatever is then seen as peripheral, it's not pushed into relegated notion of images and possibilities as second to this. But it's seen real as such, independent of space and time, simultaneous. Sure, think about it. The great element of Earth is the live feed that's happening now, while you sit, walk, talk, eat, sleep, as a necessary basis for you doing all those inferior actions. Air, oxygen, water, heat, on that level of the great planet Earth. Peripheral images, but now understood for what they are. Not assumed as the outside space that I just happen to inhabit and can afford to forget about. No. Completely seen. And it pulls you out, as I said, of that assumption of internal private space as well. Because you realize there's nothing private. Even your private internal sense of self and personified space and that nobody's privy to is contained within the live feed of planet Earth. It's contained within it. Cannot be not there. If you and your form and everything else is on the planet Earth, all of your internal concerns, assumed internally, also have to be within that greater point of view of the greater perspective. So there's nowhere to hide. And if that greater perspective, the great planet Earth, is seen rightly as subject to destruction, unownable, inconceivable to be owned or controlled, anything that's within it, it's exactly the same. And that's when the great external element of Earth and so on, and Mahabhutas, start to pervade your internal personified me, private, and he's just seeing whether it's here or over there or even on that highest level, all he sees is form externally. He understands it. So his understanding of the form externally ceases to be the assumption of the real form behind that. And to the extent that he cognizes it, that's just what he cognized. And it's there in the sutta, wasn't it? I think Aniga quoted that. Whether he thinks about the great mountains or his own body and everything associated with it, he sees there's just form externally. So it all becomes external in that sense that it's unownable. Which is the property of Putujanas external when he thinks about. See, the dimension of others, their privacy that's inaccessible to me, the point of view, what they actually are, that exists outside of me, that is unownable. And that's why you fear it, obviously. You can never possess it. But you don't see that what you're trying to possess is another image. Neither here nor there, independent of space or time, that you gratuitously allowed the implication that there is the real behind, which is another image, peripheral to that image, and there is none to that. And actually Sartre did a whole, I think, chapter on that. How the being of others always escapes you, always slips through fingers, and it's unownable, and you could dominate them to sadism or want to be dominated from masochism. I was explaining all these psychological categories, but that domain, that sphere of them, it's completely always remains inaccessible. So all these things you try to do kind of fall short. To possess, to repossess yourself through possessing others, and whatever he was describing it. But failing to understand that doesn't matter how ambiguous, how far, how real you might feel that they're real and behind, that is real as such, as an image first, not as an implication of the outside first. But as I said, that emphasis can only be shifted through repeated contemplation on the basis of right instruction. Because if you have no reason, no faith to keep repeating the same once, it will not undo the perverted emphasis, and you'll dismiss it. But even if you just approach it logically, how can it not be an image? If you're thinking it, if you're subtly aware of it, how can? Oh, but no, there is the real outside behind. Well, how is that not an image now? Simultaneity. Double live feed. And that's also another thing. If the 2 points of view are always there, simultaneously, one cannot stand without the other.
Evened.
Exactly. The gratuitously elevated, assumed my one point of view gets even out. If there is two, to the same extent, there can't be one in charge. Because when one takes charge, it's undermined by the other that's looking at it from the planet Earth live feed. And if you start to, for whatever reason, mystify the planet Earth live feed and not see the impermanence of that, well, the immediate life feed, arguing over a pot of flowers with somebody, reminds you of the impermanence of that as well. Because if this little pathetic form gets struck here, well, there will be no more perception of the planet Earth life feed either.